Welcome to the 5th episode of Mol België Season 14 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Armstrong, and joining me as always is a Canadian who would have done so well with the tennis balls this week. He'd have had 7 letters chosen. W-I-P-E-O-U and T, Logan Saunders.
That spells wipe out. Good afternoon.
Hi. And the guy who's been known to drop his trousers whenever a group of flaming strangers convince him to, David Bindley.
Good morning.
Good morning. Normally we'd do some preamble here, but I think it's only right after Saunders' worst performance in 2 pools back-to-back ever in the history of this game, ever, to just sit in our thoughts for a while and laugh at him.
And I've been laughing at him for about 2-3 days now.
Same here.
I hope 2027 goes better than this. At least give me one person in the finale.
I'm going to start calling you the reverse Hercules, Saunders, because you went from hero to zero. You had first draft in both of them, and now you've got worst draft in both of them next year.
I think that was a moment of silence for both of my teams.
I think we'd need longer than that.
Yeah, we barely even got through the last post.
Have you had good weeks?
Yeah, I guess so. Wasn't as interesting as the week before.
Really?
Yeah. I hung out in a town that is about 1/8 the size of Vernon a couple of times. So, and one town that is 1/10 the size of Vernon. So that was my week.
Yeah, but for every human, there are 6 horses, so that's why you were there.
And how about your week, Bindles?
It has been an eventful week. After we finished recording last week, I went to IKEA. Like I needed some furniture or something. I can't even remember why I went. But to get from my house to IKEA, it's basically a bus and then a train and then a tram. And the tram sort of goes through suburbs that don't have any other public transport. And get to probably about maybe 2 or 3 stops away from the IKEA. And all of a sudden over the loudspeakers, it comes up, oh, there's been a car accident up ahead. The tram is going to detour straight into the city, which means it's basically just completely ignores that stop. And so instead of, being taken to a stop right outside the front of IKEA, I had to walk 2 k's through a very hilly neighborhood to get to it. Was not best pleased. Got there. Don't worry, Logan. When I bought the meatballs, I did leave you some because I know you like the taste of horse. I don't know how that is still a joke, and that was like 15 years ago now. Yes, we are all old.
Speak for yourself.
Well, you're 30.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, can I remind you that I think all 3 of us are above the average age of this season.
Yeah. All 3 of us can bleat.
Yeah, all 3 of us, if we were on this season, would, I think, be the second oldest mole of the reboot, if not oldest.
Mm.
Anyway, back to your story.
Yeah, so, that was fun. Didn't end up getting what I wanted because they didn't have it, which is a very weird thing to say about IKEA. But to get into the IKEA, I had to walk past a bookshop. And no joke, I walk past, the first thing I see out of the corner of my eye is that fucking Yotam Ottolenghi book from last week, the simple one with the lemon on the cover. Like, genuinely just sort of, like, on a stand, sort of facing, like, the front of the shop as you walk past. So, of course, I went in, got a photo and all that sort of stuff. But that's not the exciting story of the week, because on Saturday, I got evacuated from work because of a suspected terrorist attack.
Ooh, fun.
I know.
Welcome to the club.
All right, so...
No word of a lie. I can't remember whether I even told this story in the podcast. A few years ago, I was at a work conference and there was a bomb threat called in.
Did it pan out?
By a disgruntled employee of one of the offices down the road.
Look, I mean, fair enough.
I mean, it got me out of a stupid bullshit team building exercise, so I was actually thankful for it.
You were like, I wish I could be blown up right now than to be here.
Well, not blown up, just evacuated. Sorry, Bindles, we will get back to your bomb threat story in a minute, but they had been doing weeks and weeks of this. Because I work in education, they sometimes like to test all the things for 16-year-olds on us that they're trying to encourage clients to buy into. And they had the bright idea that instead of doing something fun like we'd done Laser Quest and escape rooms and stuff before, that we would do this stupid fucking team building task for 16-year-olds, and all of us were pissed off about it, and all of us were secretly kind of delighted when someone phoned a bomb threat in at one of the offices down the road. Anyway, back to your bomb threat.
Yeah, so I guess the context here is like Saturday was a public holiday for basically the same sort of thing as Remembrance Day, even though we also have Remembrance Day. It's a confusing mess. But like sort of every year we get the stories about, oh, in the lead up they foiled a terrorist attack and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure it does happen. I also think probably it's making themselves sound good sometimes. But this year we heard on sort of in the middle of last week that they were thinking there was going to be like a terrorist attack sort of in the area near our work. Like we weren't directly like the target of the threat, but sort of we're near the wine region, and there was a threat to the wine region. So they had all the security guards and everything sort of hovering around work. And on the Saturday, being the public holiday and all of that sort of stuff, there were more cops than usual. So on the Saturday, the first train goes out like perfectly normal, no issues. And the second train's supposed to leave at 11 o'clock. Nothing happens. And, we're wondering sort of 11. Go, it's busy. Has the train left yet? The train is still sitting on the platform. Gets to, 11:45, we're starting to get worried. 12 o'clock, we're like, what's going on? Eventually, around 12, they tell us, oh yeah, there's been an issue sort of further down the railway tracks. None of the trains are leaving today. We've had to cancel everything. And so the people who were already up the other end, they ended up getting bussed back. But, we weren't sure what was going on. But apparently what happened was just completely unrelated from all of this. There was a family who had tickets for the train that booked in advance or whatever, and a friend of them had found out that was what was going to happen. Like they found out they were going to be on. And this friend basically decided, what would be fun? Putting on a camouflage suit and going and hiding near one of the level crossings and just sort of jumping out and scaring them when the train goes past.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is maybe not the best thing to do at the best of times, but, not when there's police around and all of that sort of stuff. So I guess they must have found, I don't know whether somebody had seen him and reported or whatever, but they found him sort of before the train went past. And from what I understand, all of this could be completely wrong, but from what I understand, basically there was a chase. He ended up at one of the other stations. And while he was running away, the police car drove on the tracks and ruined one of the little switches that tells the train which track it needs to go on. So basically, even though the actual issue wasn't that big in the scheme of things, they damaged the tracks so badly they couldn't run any trains back for the rest of the day because they had to send somebody up to go and have a look at it on a public holiday and then try and work out, how easy it is to fix and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was maybe not the most relaxing day I've had in that workplace in 10 years. Yeah, so how was your week, Michael?
Pretty uneventful, to be brutally honest. As I was saying to you before Saunders bothered joining us. My brother's away. It's his birthday today, but he's away with work again.
Happy birthday to him.
Yes, he won't hear it for 2 days or maybe ever, but I'll pass on your regards. But he's away, which means that Van is having a little holiday at his grandparents, and he's getting very much spoilt. He has supper with his granddad because his granddad gives him unbuttered toast, and he was apparently having a cuddle with my mum. And as soon as Dad put his glasses on, he immediately ran to Dad, sat next to him on the sofa, and started staring at the TV until it got turned on, because that's the sort of dog that he is. He's obsessed with the telly. He barks at it as soon as it goes on. He would not be able to watch this show, even the season that had the clue for dogs. Also, something I have meant to mention over the past few weeks and I kept forgetting, we haven't had a Diary of the Mole yet.
No.
We've had a Diary of the Contestant.
We've had a Diary of the Somebody.
Yeah, we've had a briefing of a contestant, but we haven't had any Diary of the Mole or briefings of the Mole this season.
Mm.
Usually we get one in episode 1 or 2. And I've had this on my notes since episode 3, being like, oh, we've not had a Diary of the Mole yet, and I kept forgetting to mention it.
Maybe the Mole just doesn't like to use their diary.
It's just very odd, because it's not something that they've missed out on doing for years. I think this would be the first season since, presumably, Vietnam that hasn't used Diary of a Mole in any capacity.
Didn't they use Diary of Mole on the very first episode of Vietnam? Or or episode 2?
Yeah, Vietnam was the first one that introduced Diary of the Mole, and we've had at least one every season since.
Oh, I see. Since, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean now.
I think Mexico was the last one that didn't have any diaries. It's just an interesting thing to mention, I think, because it's become such a format point, especially for us, given, in 2.5 weeks we're going to be recording a Diary of the Mole finale.
I wonder if it's maybe because of the joke this week about, am I going to get like the distorted voice like the Diary of the Mole? And then, trying to hide whether that person is the mole or not, because if it is the mole, then they've got to distort the voice a different way to make it sound like a different person.
Follow-on question to that, what accent are we giving the mystery contestant? Because
Swedish.
It can't be the Welsh one.
Jamaican.
I'll see if I can find a good Swedish one. Jamaican might be slightly inappropriate.
There's an accent coach on Instagram where I guess she just teaches people how to do different accents, and the people will just send her a quote to do, and she'll have to do it in 30 accents. And what was the one phrase she had to do? Pack up your things, you're fired. And one of the accents, because it's every like 2 or 3 seconds, for each accent, where she just says the line, then moves on to the next one. And one of them was Jamaican, and as soon as she said that one, she just starts just shaking her head and laughing to herself. And then one other time was she had to say the phrase, "Ow, I stubbed my toe." And then one of them was Canadian, and she just went too overboard with the Canadian stereotype, and she just lost it for a couple of seconds in the video before she could even go on to the next one.
After nearly 600 episodes, Saunders, I can confirm there is no such thing as going too far in a Canadian stereotype.
Yeah.
And you can take that to Timmy's.
Yeah, I think it was something like, "Ooh, he stood me too." And then she's like, "Nope, that was too much." "Ooh, he stood me too, eh?"
I suppose we should talk about this episode.
Talk about this episode, yeah.
So, previously, the final 7 took a literary trip to Tirrena, where Woutries and Yannis dictated what the rest of the group would be doing. At a church dilemma, no one chose to watch the film, leaving the money intact, but it didn't stay intact for long, as Wout and Julie cost the group €5,000 in a quest to save themselves. At the execution, their Passwagen may or may not have saved them, as it was Dries who was sent home. And we cut right back to the elimination on day 10, and we get our first briefing of the season. Gilles saying to a mystery candidate, "Come with me for a second, I need to tell you something. I have a briefing for you now."
For me, it took you only did that with the mole.
Yes, that's true. You're a regular candidate, and yet I have a secret message for you.
Okay, exciting. And vill min voice be distorted too, like with the mole.
Yes, I suppose so. Anyway, tomorrow the visitors are coming, and you're going to get a special assignment.
Vihoi.
Because you can earn a personal advantage, but you're not the only one, and you'll have to act well. I must point out now that I don't know how they're going to square that briefing with what we've already seen. Because we were told that Julie and Maxim got their information 2 days before the actual visitors came. And this is only one.
Oh, discrepancy.
This is also a day before the challenge.
Yeah, but in the briefing he said it would be tomorrow, didn't he? So why would he be briefing them that they're getting the visitors tomorrow and they're going to have a special assignment when they already know that because he found that out the day before? If we're to trust what we've seen on the program, they found out on day 9 that their visitor wouldn't be coming. Then we have this briefing on day 10 going, "You'll have a special assignment because your visitor's not coming." And then the visitors didn't come on day 11.
No, I think they had this briefing, then they got taken to the loved one, the fake loved one. Then the next day is when the loved ones turned up, and then they have the overnight thing before the challenge. So it is 2 days by the time the challenge happens.
Yeah, I would consider it from the meeting them in the town square, though.
My favorite unaired scene is when Andreas meets Papa Bear Jill DaCosta and says, "Hey, how's it going, Maxim?" in front of everybody.
So, following on from that, I know Bindles doesn't know the answer to this question either. Who do you think Andreas was?
Mateo's brother?
Because this comes up on Café de Mol. Van Boel was at the meme table with Yana's husband this week. And he was spilling a bit of the logistics of this challenge, like the fact there were 8 potential visitors.
Mm.
But he did also give the full names of Henri, who was Julie's fake boyfriend, Andreas, who was Maxim's fake brother, and also showed us the guy who would have played Yana's husband if Yana's husband wasn't going.
Mm.
So Andreas is actually the cousin of Michael de Vlieger,
Oh,
the first
Oh.
host of the Mole, who you didn't recognize.
Yeah, so I know the name now.
Yeah. So I think it was cousin. It was sort of quite, Van Boel left it kind of a bit vague as to his exact relation, but he's definitely related to Michael de Vlieger.
huh. I can see the resemblance.
And Henri is a former pro field hockey player.
Oh,
He, I believe, played for Belgium as a youth player and still is involved in field hockey in some capacity, I think. I think he plays for an adult club of some description. Not in a sauna's way. So 4 of their suitcases are missing on the morning of day 11, and Gilles leaves a note saying it's time for a wash, and he's already done it for them, so they have been left with the basics, and their luggage is waiting for them in Evora. Only Yannis and Yana aren't affected, and that was the choice of the Mole. Gilles tells them when he sees them that they will want their clothes back soon as their loved ones are coming, and they'll want to look their best.
You know what's annoying is that they've been in Mortimer o Novo for a couple episodes now, and yet we have yet to meet the mayor, who happens to be a turtle.
what?
What?
Yeah, Mortimer o Novo.
Oh, yeah. That's Tortimer. If you're going to make an Animal Crossing reference, at least make it right, Saunders. It's the first of many things you got wrong this episode.
Hasn't that been the theme like the whole season?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping it continues, I'll be brutally honest. I want to be right every week and then have you be wrong in the last week. So Gilles has to cackle at you this year.
I know I haven't spent much time objectifying the people this season, and you're welcome, everybody. But Wout's nipples are tiny.
That is not where I thought you were going to be going with that.
Yeah, he could date Britta from Community.
So their washing is hanging on lines across the highest clothesline of the street. The only way to get it back is to walk a slack line, and each loved one has chosen 3 items for their candidate to wear. For each correct item they choose, it's worth €500 to the pot. And Yannis and Yana can see the wrong items of clothing by doing that logical method, because it's this show, of sticking their heads in a moving dryer.
I think you mean because it's this fucking show.
Yeah, leads me on to the next thing, which is the message I sent you guys, which is, I'm already on challenge 1 and this fucking show. This is objectively hilarious.
And not to mention having to walk across a high wire while hanging onto a hanger.
Yeah. I would say this is the funniest challenge in about 3 seasons. And the scariest thing is, like, it's not even the visual in this episode that stuck with me the most because of the tennis thing.
Yeah, and also the fact that they picked the perfect person to be the interrogator, because Yannis gives such good reactions to everything. I know it won't be a spoiler by the time this episode comes out, but Yannis is the banner this week, obviously. So Julie's the first on the slack line, and her boyfriend has chosen a top, some trousers, and some socks that say love for her to wear. And she's got 5 minutes, and if she falls, her turn will end, and she will earn no money. To slow the dryer down, Yannis can pair up socks and throw them into a basket hanging on Yana's back. For each successful shot, the dryer will slow down for 10 seconds, and he can see the images of the incorrect items on there.
The puzzling thing with the basket is that they had a good strategy for how to position themselves to throw the clothes into the basket. And then they come up with what appeared to me to be a much worse angle for throwing the clothes into the basket during the latter part of the challenge.
Yeah, Yannis was in full frog pose when he did his rounds.
Yeah. And then Yana switched to kneeling, and as soon as they started kneeling, they never got another clothing item in there.
Yeah. I know there was a thing on Discord, yesterday or the day before, about, like, how did this get past OH&S? I'm going to suggest that dryer was not drying. It was just, like, more a cylinder that was rotating in the, like, frame of a dryer.
Yeah, there is no way in hell that was a real dryer.
Yeah.
Mainly because the dryer wouldn't work with the door open, because that's a safety feature. not to poo-poo it too much, but dryers are built, or standing dryers like that are built, that if the door is open, it will not run because something could be stuck in there and someone could be sticking their heads in there to try and see photos stuck on the inside of the drum.
Yeah. We've got to stop putting photos of horses in there.
Yeah, that's a rig dryer that is definitely not going to have any sort of metal actually on it.
Can you believe the person who came up with that safety feature and then watches this episode and says, see, I told you we needed to do this. I knew this would happen.
Those crazy Belgians.
Yeah. and everybody in the room thought that was a stupid idea.
So Julie picks the first item, which is a pair of white trousers. She's got to put them on while balancing on the clothesline to earn €500 for the pot. Again, insane.
Did anyone find it odd that Alexis, or who we assume to be really Alexis, picked that one of the clothing items was a pair of socks that he really likes?
I presume they were told that they had to pick a top, some bottoms, and some socks. Because everyone seemed to have stuck to that rule at least.
I've just never really heard of somebody say like, "Oh wow, look at those socks." That really stands out about this person.
I mean, it is a bit creepy for Maxim's brother to go, I want you to wear those socks for me.
Do we think the Maxim and Julie's outfits were picked by their actual loved ones or the fake loved ones?
I don't know. I want to ask Jill that question.
I would assume the real ones because we heard the audio clip, but we didn't see their faces for this. So I assume that meant it was pre-recorded over the phone, which would tell me it was probably the actual loved ones.
I think to play it straight, you probably have to get the real loved ones to at least pick the clothes. Maybe you get Henri and Andreas to voice it, which I think we did get, but you probably have to get the real people to pick, if nothing else.
Yeah, the voices weren't distorted, right? Like, we could compare the voices.
No, it certainly Henri sounded like Henri. I didn't pay that much attention to Andreas, to be honest, but Henri sounded like Henri. I'm assuming that they would have got the real people to pick them if nothing else, because it would make it too obvious who the fake ones were at the back half of this episode.
Yeah, I definitely paid much more attention to Henri as well.
I thought you might have done. I must admit, when you were talking about Wout's nipples, I was expecting you to perv on Henri instead. So she does get back with her €500, but Yannis and Yana distract her by not telling her to wear the correct trousers. She ends up dumping them and goes for the strappy top, which earns the €500 instead. Maxim is then the second to walk, and Yana has to pair the socks and throw them at Yannis' back, and his loved one is allegedly his brother. Yannis headbutts the dryer when Yana makes the first shot, which again would have been a fantastic banner if the clock graphic wasn't on it. And Maxim picks the right trousers but struggles to put his socks on, and he chooses a random t-shirt, which is wrong, but got 2 items correct for €1,000. Wout is the third one, and he's getting a visit from his wife. She chose to discount the t-shirt that says womanizer in Portuguese. Is that a clue? And he really struggles to balance, probably because he's like 50 feet tall. 2 interesting things here. Number 1, even if Wout is the mole, which I think he is, I don't know whether that was an act or not, because he is significantly taller than everyone else. And this challenge is a nightmare for a tall person.
Yeah, so you're saying if you're the mole, you would definitely be you're tall, you'd put yourself on the wire for sure.
Yeah, because they were trying to work out why Yannis and Yana weren't picked by the mole. It sounded like everyone apart from Wout had a fear of heights, of those 4. And Wout is mega tall. I reckon he's about the same height as me. So, because your center of gravity is a lot higher, it's way, way harder to balance on a slack line if you're above 6 foot than whatever height everyone else is, I would say. Like, dude was taller than the windows. So I think that's probably the logic why the mole, whoever it is, picked Wout to be there. Is not necessarily because he's afraid of heights. It's the fact that it's going to be an absolute bitch for him to balance.
I know we found out that pegador means womanizer in Portuguese, which, sounds bad. But at least it's better than Icelandic, where it means, person who's like standing in a field with Hardwick.
The other thing I was going to mention is Pedro was on the contestants table this time, and obviously he speaks Portuguese because he's half Portuguese. And he said that pegador does not just mean womanizer, it means someone who's not trustworthy.
Oh.
So stick that in the back of your mind, is all I have to say.
But if I stick that in the back of the mind, what's going to happen with all the other memories of Pedro?
So yeah, Yana spots the shirt that he's putting on is the wrong one, but they still haven't run for the line yet. He chooses the right trousers, but still has to put them on, and he returns to the start just in time with one correct item for €500. Isabel is then the last one, chosen by her daughter. She immediately picks the right t-shirt and socks, and thanks to the Yans, she gets the completely right outfit, but then the hanger falls off. So does she, giving them a total of €2,000 of 6,000 for the challenge.
I feel like I already know the answer to this, but would you rather stick your head in a dryer or do the tightrope thing?
You know the answer to this. Stick my head in a dryer, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like I would fall off that tightrope pretty quickly just due to my terrible balance.
Yeah, I have a notoriously bad sense of balance anyway, and also, I'm like 50 feet tall. This would be a terrible challenge to put me on.
Do you think that Wout could have sabotaged the clothes hanger before Isabel's turn?
Maybe. I think there was definitely some sort of fuckery there. I did see it pointed out on Discord that Isabel's fall is basically identical to Commie's from Arizona. So that would be suspicious if the mole is using the same tactic again. But I certainly think that clothes hanger pinged off quite considerably. I'm not sure whether Wout sabotaged it, but it was certainly a dramatic fall from Isabel. Also, Jan from the behind-the-scenes stuff went and picked the visitors up while everyone else is doing the clothesline challenge. They dressed him up as a bus driver for some reason and got him to pick everyone up from the airport. And the hilarious thing is that Andreas forgot Maxim's name on the bus. And Henri also kept forgetting Julie's name, including on the bus with the other visitors when he was introducing himself.
What is that? Nominal amnesia?
Something like that, yeah.
I wonder if that's why Yannis' wife basically didn't seem to be helping with that interrogation.
Well, it's established in the behind-the-scenes stuff that apparently Audrey is even more competitive than Yannis is. I think she was probably just letting him take the lead, given that he was the one who would win or lose the money for the group, and he's the one with the actual vested interest. I mean, obviously, she's got the vested interest of a ring on her finger if he wins, but I think probably she deferred to his expertise of the group after 2 weeks. I think that's the sensible way to do it is, yes, the loved one has an opinion, but ultimately the contestant knows a lot more about the actual other contestants.
Yeah.
So the loved ones are waiting around the corner at the town square, and it's all very emotional for 4 of them. Michelle would absolutely hate this.
Yeah. My genuine note, as soon as I saw this, is, wow, there is no closeness between Maxim and his brother.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this even before I knew about the twist. Like, I think it's way easier to do that sort of a twist and get away with that sort of a twist if it's a sibling relationship, because you can just say, oh yeah, we don't do public displays of affection. For Julie, it's a little bit harder, but also it's her own damn fault that she's basically got to kiss a stranger.
But also your sibling kind of has to look like you have the same parents.
Well, you say that, but my brother looks more like the milkman. Genuinely, everyone doesn't necessarily realize that we're brothers because I look more like my mum's side of the family and he looks more like my dad's. So as much as I am joking about him looking like the milkman, we don't necessarily look like brothers.
I like how when Andreas and Maxim are hula hooping, it looks like 2 friends who have just met at some sort of summer camp for the first time.
Could we be hula hoop buddies?
Yeah. Do you like cherry soda? I like cherry soda.
Look, Mom, no hands.
I know it's a very me thing to say this, and Fuzzy's probably going to put it on the bingo card, but I would love to know the logistics of this challenge and like how much they were briefed about everything, because I think they were maybe only briefed about who their fake loved one would be and nothing else. And I kind of love the idea of Andreas walking into it already being a bit awkward generally, and then being told, oh yeah, you've now got a, hula hoop with me. Hula hoop with your fake brother.
Yeah, they both can talk about how their shoes can help them run faster.
So we get the traditional, do you think your loved one's the mole? Obviously, with 4 real loved ones and 2 not so real ones. Antje says she doesn't know if Wout could be the mole. He tells her everything. Audrey says she can read Yannis like a book. Maxim doesn't think Gilles knows everything about him, but Gilles doesn't believe him that he's not the mole. And we find out from fake boyfriend that Julie cheated at minigolf on their first date. Yanna's too fanatical, and Isabel hid that she was dating someone from her kids for half a year.
That's a long time. Oh, speaking of 6 months, apparently, Isabel didn't let her daughter have an iPad for half a year for doing poorly in school.
Regardless of whether she's the mole or not, I want Isabel to be in the final 3 so we get to talk to her and just pick her brain, because I find her fascinating.
Do you think if Isabel had the opportunity, she would have stopped Abigail from using her iPad for half a year for not doing that 5 versus 5 challenge?
And also for costing them €2,000. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, now it's 9 months that Abigail can't use her iPad. Also, who knew that Wout really, really missed applesauce?
Yeah, you can't get it in Portugal, apparently.
Apparently, applesauce is Portuguese for suspicious.
Well, everybody else is wearing shirts that say suspicious this week.
Very true, because Maxim wore one last week and Isabel wore one this week, I think. Or maybe it's the other way around. They both worn them in the past 2 weeks anyway, because it's an actual brand. Also on Julie's loved one giving her chocolate. Apparently, according to Pedro, you can't get real chocolate in Portugal.
So it's a fake. Everything about Julie's relationship was fake this episode.
No, he brought her chocolate from Belgium. It's just you can't get.
Oh, I see. Oh, I thought meant like it was like not even allowed within the borders.
Yeah, it's not like Singapore with chewing gum. You can't get fined for bringing chocolate into Portugal, Saunders.
That's the funny thing. It wasn't even Belgian chocolate. It was Lindt, which is Swiss. So not only is it not allowed in Belgium, now she's being charged with treason.
Hey, in the States, they're not allowed Kinder Surprises. My cousin got in trouble at the border for attempting to smuggle Kinder Surprises into the States from Canada.
Is that still a thing? Because I thought they'd relax the rules on that.
I don't know, but this was about, I want to say, close to 10 years ago now, because she visits from the States, and at the time she was teaching, she had a 5th grade class that she was teaching. So every year when she would come here for Christmas, she would buy a bunch of Kinder Surprises at the store and then bring them on the border. She would usually hide them in her vehicle somewhere. But one time she forgot to hide them, so then the border patrol, or the border crossing guard, when they were just talking to her, they briefly inspected her vehicle, and she had it way out in the open, like not even trying to conceal it. And the guy just sighs and says, I have to look up the rule for Kinder Surprises. I'm sorry. I have to enforce this.
I've just Googled it. They are still illegal to import in the US, and travelers may face fines of up to $2,500 per egg.
Huh.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's one of the stupidest laws I've ever heard of.
I knew you weren't allowed to take Vegemite into the US, but that's just common sense.
Yeah, that's because no one wants Vegemite.
Yeah.
And I believe the stupid rule with the Kinder Surprise eggs is because there's a toy inside the chocolate. That's the reason. There was like some weird law that was passed in 1910 or 1912. They've never bothered reversing that law.
1938, according to Google, because the legal alternative is the Kinder Joy, which is basically the same thing, but the chocolate separates, so it's not a choking hazard.
Yeah, it's right up there. I mean, a more understandable law is that you can't put squirrels in your pants for the purposes of gambling. But the Kinder Surprise one just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But damn it, you still try, Saunders.
Yeah.
Because those squirrels want those nuts. My work here is done. So the next day, they take a bus to a wine estate close to the Spanish border for a nice casual meal that definitely won't end up being a challenge. And during the meal, a suspicious man brings out a line drawing machine that isn't at all concerning. After he disappears, 2 tennis players come out and treat their table as a court. Again, this fucking show.
I did like, Isabel really liking the meal, and then Maxim just being like, "Yeah, I just want chips."
Yeah, this is too fancy for me.
I feel like I would get along really well with Maxim.
What is this round object with a handle on it? A spoon?
So Gilles comes out to stop them and tells them that as long as they stay sitting down, nothing bad will happen to them. He brings a crucial message for them, and they have to piece it together by collecting tennis balls. Each ball on one side of the court forms a pair with one on the other, and each pair they bring back to the table will earn them one letter and €200 for the pot. I will also say, I counted the number of tennis balls. The maximum for this challenge is €5,000.
Of course, you counted the balls.
Yeah, because it ruins the maximum amount when I list it out. But I did take a screenshot of the court as we see the first team doing this to count the number of tennis balls on one side of it. It was 25.
I really liked that this was an unaired challenge from Canary Islands when one of the contestants got hit in the head with the tennis ball and then their head accidentally got punctured by a fork on the table and had to be medically evacuated from the game.
Well, that's literally what happened to Maxim. He got clocked in the face.
But they hit. I think it was Andreas. No, it was Henri. I think they hit him so close that like his sunglasses flew off at one point.
Well, Henri had the bowler move of catching a tennis ball in midair when he'd sat down.
I wonder if each time that Andreas gets hit in the head with a tennis ball, if it's like a switch going back and forth of calling Maxim Jill, and then if he gets hit in the head again, then he calls him Maxim again, then if he gets hit in the head, he calls him Jill.
I wonder if like the fake actors knew they were going to be stuck in this situation.
This is what I mean. Like, it's fascinating to me how this sort of thing was put together because I want to know what they knew.
Yeah.
I want to know how they were briefed.
Like, did they, go and ask De Vlieger to see if he's, if he had anyone who could be involved? And then he went to his cousin. He's like, "Oh yeah, what am I going to do? Oh, they're going to piff tennis balls at your head. It'll be fine."
Let me look at my calendar.
But I love the idea of how they found these people because none of them really match. You have De Vlieger's cousin, then you have Henri, who's a pro hockey player. I don't think we found out what the background of fake Laurence would have been.
Yeah.
But like, none of these people move in the same circles.
And besides, we know that exposing yourself in Portugal only happens on a tightrope 6 meters above an alley.
Very true. Only when you drop your trousers when Yannis and Yana tell you to.
Do you think there was something in like all of the pairs being cartoons?
Maybe. I know people have been looking into the cipher used for the randomized letters. Because apparently it missed cipher 14 or something.
Oh.
There's a big, long discussion on Grant's Discord about this from today. Which I still couldn't really get head nor tail of it because I just don't understand the whole cipher thing. But yeah, apparently there's probably a clue in that somewhere. So Yannis and Audrey are the first pair. If they get hit by a tennis ball, they're out of the challenge. Whatever they collect is only banked if they make it back to the table safely. And they get 2 pairs, but then Yannis gets hit and they bank nothing. Maxim and Jill are the next pair, and they try and bank after 1, but then Maxim gets hit in the face in the confusion of whether to go back out or not.
Who does he think he is, John Vito?
Did you see how I blocked the tennis ball? With my face!
Yana and Lawrence are the next ones and collect 5 before sitting down, banking €1,000 and 5 letters, and they pick A, E, R, S, and T. Proper Wheel of Fortune fans there, I suspect. Using those letters, they figure out the first 2 words are 2 candidates. Isabella and Anais are the next 2, and they bank after another 4, and they choose I, G, U, and B. Wout and Antje are then the next pair, and they get 1 pair banks before she's hit and not Wout. And then Julie and Alexis are the last pair, and they bank 5 more pairs of balls for a total of €2,800 of 5,000 for the challenge. They pick their 5 letters and reveal the message, which is that 2 candidates are playing doubles as their loved one is a stranger. 2 of them have spent the past day and night with a complete stranger pretending to know each other.
Henri was like genuinely impressive at the tennis.
Yes. Again, this dude is a pro hockey player.
Yeah.
He has very good reactions. They were very impressed on Café de Mol that he caught the tennis ball in midair. So we see that before the trip, they were all asked if they'd exchange their loved one's visit for Passfragen. The 2 who bid the least Passfragen have their wish potentially coming true. Now, don't want to harp on the same point again for 5 episodes on the trot, but everything you say in these casting interviews can and will come back to bite you. You have to pay attention to everything you're asked.
Especially when it's like specific gaming mechanics, including Pastragen.
Yeah. There is always going to be some sort of trick to the casting interviews. And I don't understand how these people don't twig it, don't expect it. So someone bid 30, someone bid 20, there were 2 5s, a 4 and a 2, and whoever bid the lowest 2 have a complete stranger, and each pair that is exposed now will be worth 1,500 euros for the pot. To make it easier, they can nominate one pair as interrogators, and that pair will be the only ones who will determine if they earn money or not, and they choose Yannis and Audrey.
Isn't bidding 30 plus Fragen kind of pointless when the maximum score on a test is 20?
It is, but I think at that point, Wout wanted his wife there.
Yeah.
I was saying this to you before we started recording. I am in a Wout tunnel, but he did exactly what I would have done as Mol in that situation. I'm assuming the Mol was asked this after they were already confirmed as Mol. You don't want to be one of the 2 people who are exposed as liars here, I would say.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I thought it was before.
Yeah, I don't know for certain, but my read on it is probably the Mol was appointed fairly early in these casting interviews.
Yeah.
I think the Mol probably got a choice as to whether they wanted their loved one there or not, and then they were told, right, you got to bid 30 then, wow.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of interested to know what everyone else bid who'd already gone out. I think that'd be interesting.
Found it interesting that Yana and Yannis both picked Wout to be the interrogator.
There was a discussion on Discord as to whether people were testing their Mol in this challenge.
I know Isabel definitely would be.
Yeah.
I think Isabel did the testing last week, and now she was like, well, if that's the person who's going to make the decision, I want to pick not the Mol. I don't care who else it is, as long as it's not Wout. So I think that's why Isabel sort of started the discussion and then waited until later, sort of in the middle of it, to make her pick. Because then she could kind of sway the discussion a little bit. Like if you go too early, basically you pick and then somebody else, it's completely out of your hands. If you go too late, the decision might have already been made. But if you're in the middle, you can kind of level up the thing, and then they've sort of the people after you basically had to choose between Wout and Yannis.
I think we had a couple of missed opportunities here, though, because if Dries was still in and Isabel was the interrogator, she wouldn't have known whether it was his wife, girlfriend, sister, complete stranger. She wouldn't have given a shit. She would have picked him anyway because she didn't care. She would have just been interrogating him, going, so I'll believe whatever you tell me she is because I've no idea.
I don't think that's your wife, Dries. Yes, I know. I told you she's my daughter.
I also think it's a real shame that that Van Boel gave us so much information on Café de Mol, because if this was an American show, within like 10 seconds, the fans would have found out their full names, their real jobs, where they live, their blood type, everything.
I mean, in the Discord, Fuzzy did track down Maxim's real brother.
Yeah, of course she did. You're just living up to the stereotypes we have of American fans, Fuzzy. We love you, but still. So yeah, Yannis and Audrey end up being the interrogators, and everyone else is up for interrogation. And my highlight of it, in the first part at least, is Yannis forcing Isabel and Anais to hug.
That was weird. Like, it's a mother and daughter, Yannis. Come on now. Like, it'd be different if it was like Julie and Henri, where if you're trying to figure out if the couples are really couples, be like, hey, if you're really a couple, you'll have intercourse right now, and then we'll know for sure it's a real couple. But yeah, this was just weird, Yannis.
Now, everybody leave your keys on the table.
He's just sat there rubbing his hands on his legs going, go on, kiss, harder, kiss it, please.
God, you hope it's on his legs.
Do you think that was like a production rule where they had to step in and say, okay, by the way, for this challenge, Yannis, you can't ask Julie and Henri to engage in intercourse to prove that they are a real couple or not. You can't do it.
Yannis, there is just one rule for your interrogation. No tongue.
Can you imagine? If you two are a couple, you'll kiss. Well, that was a peck. What is that?
I don't know how he didn't realize that Isabel and Anais were mother-daughter, because Isabel she pouts when she's hesitating, and Anais does the exact same thing when her mother is doing it in this challenge. They do an almost simultaneous thinking pout, and it's identical. And if you clock it, you're like, yeah, they're definitely related.
And I like how Isabel didn't even know anything about Anna's interests either, just like the other contestants, where Anna's is like, no, that's your favorite movie.
Maybe this is just a character trait of her. Like we saw it with Dries last week, where she was like, yeah, wife, girlfriend, I don't care. Maybe she just doesn't show an interest in other people.
Yeah. I mean, at least How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is better than White Chicks.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I must say, I know I alluded to it earlier in the episode, but Yannis was the perfect pick for the interrogator role here because he does not give a shit about upsetting people.
Yeah. Like, I love Maxim, but he would have played it too seriously.
Yeah. Yannis's facial expressions are delightful in this challenge.
I wish the questions were a bit meaner. Like, all right, so the question I want you to write down on the chalkboard is, where do you see yourselves as a couple in 5 years? What just split the relationship apart right then and there.
I love that, like, we established he's got a limited amount of time to interview these people to try and work out what's going on. And he's got to use that board at some point. But he still wastes time getting Yana and her partner to look at each other like they're in love.
Look deep into each other's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have done more with that. Well, what does looking into each other's eyes as a couple even prove?
I wonder whether he picked Isabel because he suspects Isabel. Or maybe he's just threatened by Isabel and doesn't want her to have a personal advantage. Because essentially his choice is, who do you not want to get past Fragen?
That's true, too. That would just be defensive measure to make sure you survive the execution rather than trying to earn money for the pot as the primary goal, per se.
If you think that Isabel is a threat, or you think Isabel is on the wrong mole and you want her to go out, then that's the move.
It's like a neutralizer, like a pseudo neutralizer.
But if you're picking someone to basically not get past Fragen, it's kind of a waste to pick the person you think is the mole.
But then at least if you're wrong about her being the mole, she doesn't get an advantage out of it.
Yeah.
Because if she's not the mole and you think she is, if she then goes home here, then you've got enough time to recover. Whereas if she gets too past Fragen and stays in as a result of it, then you've got another week where potentially you could go home instead of her. So, after the interrogations, Yannis and Audrey pick Julie and Alexis correctly, and Isabel and Anais. Unfortunately, that is incorrect, meaning they earn a total of €1,500 of 3,000 for the challenge, 6,314,000 for the episode, and €12,270 of 70,600 for the season so far. Maxim and Jill were the other stranger pair, and he earns 2 past Fragen as a result. And it is also time for the loved ones to leave.
I was shocked that Yannis didn't pick Maxim as a fake pair because that was the one fake pair I clocked right away.
I did get a huge laugh out of Henri, like, correctly matching Julie's worst habit. I'm like, how annoying, like, is she for him to pick up on that after 2 days?
Julie, you've irritated the shit out of me so much in the past day that I'm just going to put that as your worst habit, even if you don't think it is. It is. This is a reality check.
He really could have put down a much meaner answer if he wanted to, considering he doesn't even know her. Like, really go after her self-esteem here if he wanted to.
God, there was one week on Big Brother Australia where they basically just got sick of people, like, not nominating properly. So they were like, okay, we're going to completely ignore it. Nominate for whatever reason you want, no matter how stupid it is. And, like, some of them still played it genuinely. But then one person, like, got nominated because somebody thought their eyes were a little bit too far apart.
But even in the initial table discussion, the very first person to say anything was Yana saying, Maxim is a lot quieter today than usual. And his brother really isn't fitting in with the group at all. And it's like, they seem so distant. And they kept talking about it. And then I don't know what happened, but I didn't see anything in the interrogation that would have convinced me otherwise. So I'm very surprised that that was the fake couple that Yannis didn't get. You think that was
Yeah.
sort of the gimme one was going to be Maxim and his brother.
It was interesting that sort of everybody jumped on Maxim for really not having any affection towards his fake brother. And then when Maxim picks Julie, like she accuses him of picking her because the lack of affection. I'm like, yes, that's what's going on here.
Yeah, this is the first real thing that Yannis has done in a few weeks that has been a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
It's just a very odd choice. Because also from a mole perspective, just going back to the discussion we kind of started earlier, I don't think the mole would want to be in the two fakes because you'd be exposed as being a liar if you get away with it. But also, the mole can't take money out of the pot there. The only way for the mole to stop money going into the pot in this challenge is either be really obviously fake with your real partner or be in the Yannis spot.
I will say, like, I know you're in the Wout tunnel, choo-choo, all aboard, etc. But I do think it's interesting that, like, he was really obviously, like, that was the one most obviously, like, correct pair in this entire challenge.
I think it's probably harder for the two people who are married to hide their affection for their partner.
Yeah.
And I think whether he's mole or not, Wout obviously adores his wife.
Yeah.
Just as Yana obviously adores her husband. I think those two, it would have been very difficult for them to have a fake partner.
Yeah. Isabel, on the other hand, does not care about her daughter.
and yet she put 20. She wanted her daughter there. She was willing to basically gamble it for an entire exemption if Anais couldn't come. And yet she didn't give a shit about her daughter. It's brilliant. So, it is time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole who have no sleep concept except for the mole who can never go home. And Maxim has 2 pass for this test. He says that it's the first time he's had a lot of stress. He's not sure yet, but he thinks he's on the right track. Choo-choo. Isabel's 4 look 4 says, Mole, you can be a hero and still get no money. Isabel says she found Yannis very suspicious today, going for her and Anais and not Maxim and his brother. Isabel is suspicious to Yannis. She acted weirdly with the daughter. Yana said Maxim could dodge everything, but then got hit in the face. He was one of the strongest players in that assignment. Julie says Wout was suspicious on the slack line. He works at height in his job. She feels like the mole is a guy. She hopes it is, otherwise she's out. And Wout says that Julie went for a t-shirt that she admitted her boyfriend had never seen before. If he wasn't sure, he wouldn't wear it. Interesting that basically we had those suspicions in pairs. Because Wout and Julie suspect each other, according to this.
Yeah.
Then we have Isabel and Yannis suspecting each other. Maxim suspects Isabel, according to this, and Yana suspects Maxim, according to this. So, yeah. Whether we can believe the who suspects who, I don't know, but that's certainly the implication we got. This is the first time in the season, I think, where everyone's suspicions has at least been alluded to. Usually there's one or two that they kind of skirt around.
Quick sidebar to all this. Was this your guys' favorite Loved Ones challenge?
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely up there.
Not to lead the challenge guide witness too much, but I would be very surprised if any of these challenges go below a B.
Yeah.
This is, start to end, one of the strongest episodes in years.
Yeah. Like, I really like Sicily, and Arizona is my favorite season of this show ever. But this was as strong as those episodes. I know, we kind of weren't as high on Portugal for various reasons, but this episode feels like confident again in a way that we haven't had for a little while.
Yeah, certainly off the back of Thailand.
Yeah. And like even, the start of this season, it kind of felt a little bit like, okay, let's, redo the classic hits to try and, get back to what we do best. This episode felt like they were doing new stuff, even though, we still get things like, oh, there's a hangman game to, reveal a surprise twist, and like they did in Vietnam. I think there's stuff in here that, like, you can see sort of like how they echo in the past, but they do it in sort of new ways that make it feel exciting and fresh again, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think at this point, we talk a lot about the themes of the season, and obviously Thailand, we had playing with luck and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The theme of this season seems to be looking back at the previous hits and doing a wrinkle based off of them. Because a lot of the twists of this season so far have been versions of stuff they've done before, but with a bit of a wrinkle.
Yeah.
And they didn't really publicize that being the twist or the theme. So I think it's interesting to look at, especially over halfway through the season now, that pretty much all of the big points that they've done this season, deliberately at least, have been variants of previous infamous moments.
Yeah. And I think sort of even, well, definitely last year, but even in Sicily, there was sort of a feeling that like there'd be, maybe two really good challenges and then one they kind of just sort of needs a little bit more work to like be really good. But this is an episode that had, three really excellent challenges where like, say, Sicily, you had the spaghetti challenge was kind of a dud aside from, the mum spaghetti joke that led us down the Mikhail Monster choo-choo. But then, you had like the earthquake challenge and the Hercules challenge in that episode to balance it out. Or like the petrol station last year, really excellent challenge. But then it was kind of paired with like the skydive theme, which didn't really work, and the Jurian theme, which kind of not great either. But like this is an episode where like you can take any of these challenges on its own merits, and you'd be like, this is a really good thing. I have to watch the rest of this episode. And like we haven't really had that for a little while. Like, don't get me wrong, like Sicily, really fun season. Thailand sort of had its moments. But I would say like maybe the last episode that's really had like three excellent challenges is the one in Arizona with like the school challenge with Lancelot doing the presentation, and then the diner game, and then the speed escape room. Like it's been a while since the show has been firing on all cylinders like this. More like this, please.
Yeah, this episode felt very confident.
Yeah.
In a way that it hasn't necessarily, certainly in the last year.
Yeah.
And obviously we know there was other factors at play with Thailand, but
yeah,
it feels like maybe they took a little bit of time at the start of the season to go, right, how do we do this show brilliantly?
Yeah.
And now they've realised how to do it brilliantly again.
Yeah.
So Gilles says that it has been a good few days for the Pots. It's just under doubled since the last execution. It's great for the group, but not for the Mole. They are not out of the game, but one of the candidates will be. One person won't be travelling to their next destination, Lisbon. Interestingly, he didn't say final destination, so maybe we're going to get one more place after Lisbon.
Sintra.
Isabel and Yannis both get green screens before Yana gets the red one, and Logan is wiped out.
Well, I thought she was going last week, so...
You did.
It could have been worse.
But also, you're not going to salvage any sort of positivity from this Saunders. Or respectability, yeah, that works as well.
I didn't even know I had that in the first place.
Oh, believe me, you don't. She says she gambled and lost. She thought it was time for one person and went for it, at final 6. Unfortunately, she was wrong.
She wrong.
She started the adventure with a compliment from the Mole. Yannis said he loved starting the adventure with her, and Wout says he's never had as good a co-pilot. She says her highlight was hanging behind the speedboat for a few seconds at least. And Julie was happy when Yana came to her rescue in the toilet escape room. Next time, trams, Isabel rides a bull, Wout overflows, there is a fight at a bull ring, and Wout does a handstand. Interestingly, they did try and get her to say who she thought the Mole was in Café de Mol, and she refused to. They also tried to get Van Boel to say who the Mole was, and he didn't say anything either.
But why would they do that?
I don't know. Fun, probably.
Yeah, Van Boel says who the Mole is. Okay, that'll be a fun last couple episodes for the viewers. There's no upside to it.
Yeah.
I know I've been making slight digs at Café de Mol in the past few weeks, but I had a real problem with it this week for a reason that people won't necessarily expect. Because they were talking so much about the Mole's motivations, and they didn't have a Mole at the contestant table because it was Michelle and Pedro this week. Michelle being on Isabel, Pedro being on Wout, and Michelle making jokes about how you never follow Pedro's suspicions because you know what happens.
And hello to Michelle if she's listening.
Yeah, hello to Michelle, we like you. But dead center in the camera for most of the episode, alongside his mother, who he brought on the loved one's visit, was Mole Senna. Oh. I don't know why they didn't cut to him and say, how would you have played this as a mole? Because they were talking about how a mole would play it, but then they never actually asked the one guaranteed mole in the room.
Maybe they've already forgotten what he looks like.
I mean, they put him dead center. I don't think they'd forgotten what center looks like.
Dead center or dead center?
Both. Also, directly behind Michelle and Pedro was a significantly older looking bearded Noah from Germany, which is another way they've made me feel old, because he has a beard now.
Oh, he hit puberty.
He did. Also, fun fact from Café de Mol, they test all of these challenges with old candidates, and Connie from Arizona had a fake daughter when they tested this challenge.
Which old candidate stuck their head into a washing machine?
Yeah, that's another question to ask, is who stuck their head in a washing machine? Because apparently they test every challenge with old candidates.
Hugo.
Fucking hell, Saunders.
Lloyd, but he didn't fit.
I didn't know we were watching TV today. The pictures are really moving fast today, guys.
Axel trying to get dressed on a tightrope.
Also, from the behind the scenes, we find out that Julie thought that she was going to outsmart Yannis because she hadn't told Yannis anything about herself, apart from talked about her horse for 2 weeks, apparently.
Oh, so Logan will get on well with her.
Exactly.
I feel like this podcast has really gone off the rails over the past couple minutes.
Anyway, back to it going back on the rails. Suck it, Saunders, you're out of the pool.
What? I didn't. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
What's it like in the empty end of the pool?
So yeah, on the pool, Logan loses his last team member for his earliest wipeout ever in België, meaning that in both pools this year he's done a reverse Hercules and gone from hero to zero, finishing last. Bindles still has Isabel, Julian, Maxim, and I have Wout and Yannis. And I must point out that this is the final week that any switches can get used this season.
Are you stealing or not?
You first. Bindles and I have a death pact after last week, and this is the conversation that I alluded to on Discord earlier in the week, if people are wondering, because after we recorded last week, I made it very clear that in no uncertain terms, if Bindles tries to steal Wout this week, I will steal him back. He will get Yannis.
Logan, can I steal your steal?
No. You know as well as I do, the only way that you win this pool if Wout is the mole is if you convince Saunders to move Wout for you.
Saunders, I won't make any horse jokes next week if you let me steal.
That's a lie. Don't trust him, Saunders.
It's a gamble I'm willing to take.
So, follow-up question, are any switches getting used?
Nah.
Correct answer. Thank you. On first suspicions, the first piece of good news is that no one had Yana first, and 4 people, Jeroen, Andrew, Jack, and Christopher had her in either 10th or 11th. The second piece of good news is that we now have joint leaders again, as Femke's solo lead becomes a joint lead with me again on 17 points. On the other end of the scale, the third piece of good news is that Logan is still at the back of the pack with a score of 33. Yes, nearly double mine. But he's not the outright loser anymore, as Sandra and Abel 1 point ahead of him on 34. Which means, Saunders, you actually get some positivity out of your clusterfuck of an episode.
Season.
I'm being generous. The suspect list questions this week are for Vidum, who is the winner, and for België, you've escaped a nasty question all season, so you're getting one this week. How many pass fragen did the mole bid? And because I'm being nice, I will actually list them. Yannis went for 5, Isabel went for 20, Wout went for 30, Maxim went for 2, and Julie went for 4. The suspicions for Flanders last week were Isabel on 21%, up 1 from the previous week, Yana on 20%, up 8, Wout on 20%, up 5, Maxim on 14%, minus 1, Yannis on 13, minus 2, and Julie on 12, plus 1. After Café de Mol this week, Isabel was on 30, Wout was on 20, Maxim and Yannis were on 17, and Julie was on 14. Final 2 questions. Who do we suspect? Who's going home?
So, my suspect list, which I don't think really means anything at this point.
I mean, we've been saying it for weeks, but yeah.
Or years. So first I have Julie, then Isabel, then Maxim, then I had Yana, then Wout, then Yannis, and I'm going to say Wout goes next week.
Don't you fucking dare, Saunders.
I'm getting the voodoo doll. Wout's going.
I will say, in much a similar vein to Yana when she was on the behind the scenes, I would rather Wout goes home now than Wout is still in the final and he's not the mole.
I think it would be hilarious if Wout made it to the final. He's not the mole.
I don't.
You don't matter.
That's not very nice. You're mean.
Am I mean, horse boy?
Anyway, what's your suspect list, Bindles?
Wout, Isabel, Julie, Yannis, and then Maxim at the bottom. So it's either Julie or Yannis. I'm going to go with Yannis going home next week.
I feel very bullied by the two of you voting against my team. My suspicions are Wout, Maxim, Isabel, Julie, and Yannis in that order, and I think that Julie's going next week. With an outside chance of Maxim. I think those two are going to be the next two to go. Because I am pretty convinced at this point that Wout, Isabel, and Yannis are going to be the final three. Also, something on the pool that I didn't mention is that Bindles now has the first confirmed finalist.
Oh, congratulations.
Which is his first confirmed finalist ever on the pool, because you went out pre-finale last year.
Mm.
I like to give you some positive news.
Who knew all I had to do was not pick all the hot dudes?
Yeah. You've learnt a very valuable lesson. Anything else to say about this episode?
And a hello to Henri if he's listening.
Anything to say about this episode, or indeed Yana, because we haven't really eulogized her?
Oh yeah, Yana. She was
a person on this season. I mean, she was nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to go the Jay Fisher route. I thought she was a fun presence.
Yeah. I don't think I ever thought she was the mole, but she was fun.
She can't hula hoop that well.
I mean, first Yana came and then Yana went.
Yeah, pretty much. So, thank you for listening to our Mol België Season 14 recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for the nearest mole in Portugal. Don't forget you can contact us on pretty much every social media platform that isn't TikTok, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact at rtvwarriors.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/rtvwarriors and give us your suspects by playing Suspect List for both Vidum and België at the link in our bio. And I must also point out, it's the last week of Vidum. If you've not used your Yoka yet, this is your one reminder that I will give you. And we will be doing the results of the Vidum Suspect List on next week's podcast.
Congratulations to whoever wins, because it's obviously not one of us.
Yeah, I mean, you've not seen the finale yet, Saunders, but I don't think it matters at this point. If it's Bram or Dan, I win the pool. If it's Dan, I win Suspect List, maybe. If it's Dan, I probably win our weekly suspicions. If it's Bram, I win first suspicions. So I don't really care which of the two of them it is at this point.
And the rest of us have been, I believe the phrase is, suitably disgraced.
Yes, pretty much. Anyway, thank you to the Legion of Subtitles. We'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next flavoring.
And if you're on the Wout train, look out for the dude in the camo suit. Choo choo!
Choo choo!